How Larry Leatherlungs Saved Christmas. Christmas couldn't come soon enough for Larry Leatherlungs. He had been counting down the days since the 1st of December. 2 days before Christmas, he was already so excited that he woke up even earlier than usual. He marked another big X on the calendar beside his bed. Tomorrow would be Christmas Eve. Then he peeked out his bedroom window. Moonlight lit the street, which was slowly being covered over by another heavy snowfall. It was so early in the day that not a single car tire or footprint had yet dented the new snow. Larry Leatherlungs bounced out of bed and scampered into his parents' bedroom, where he found his mum and dad still sleeping. "It's snowing!" he shouted in a voice that rattled the window panes and gave the alarm clock such a shock that it stopped ticking. His mother sat up in bed and jabbed her fingers into her ears. She squinted at the bright light and then groped for the pair of earplugs she kept on the table beside her bed. His father just groaned and stuck his head under the pillow. "It's 4 o'clock in the morning," his mother whispered. "Larry, please go back to bed." "The mouth that roared," his father muttered. "Come on, Dad, get up. Let's go make a snowman. Let's have a snowball fight. Let's build an igloo. Come on, Mum, let's go tobogganing. Right now, it's snowing. Yippee!" Life wasn't easy for Larry Leatherlungs. He couldn't help it that his voice was as loud as a jet engine. Whenever he spoke, people covered their ears and stepped back in shock. In the summer, his voice was so loud that cherries fell from the trees before they were ripe. In the fall, the trees on his street were the first in town to lose their leaves. The loud voice of Larry Leatherlungs was a problem no one could solve. His parents certainly didn't know what to do. It was especially embarrassing for them because they were both old-fashioned librarians who loved silence more than anything else. They always spoke in a soft whisper, even at home. "Could you please pass the salt, dear?" Mr. Leatherlungs would say softly. "Certainly, darling," his wife would reply in a voice even softer still. "Thank you. You're welcome." Larry Leatherlungs thought his parents were rather strange. They were so annoyingly quiet. Why didn't they, too, have loud voices? He felt a little bit sorry for them. Larry himself was proud to be loud. Sometimes he felt that he didn't really belong in his own family. His loud voice was such a nuisance that he was forbidden to go to their library anymore. Once he laughed so loud that a whole row of books came tumbling down and landed on Gertrude Grumblehonk, the town's official sourpuss, who was there to return her overdue copy of her favorite cookbook, Better Butter with Bitter Batter. "Larry Leatherlungs, you are living proof that children should be seen and not heard," Gertrude Grumblehonk squawked as she struggled free from underneath the pile of books on top of her. At school, if Larry Leatherlungs wanted to answer a question, he had to wait until the teacher had first stuffed fat wads of cotton wool in her ears. She even made him wait the time he very much wished to tell her that the empty desk in front of his had somehow caught fire all by itself. "In your case, Larry, silence is always golden," she said, as she tossed a bucket of water over the burning desk. The other kids at school thought Larry was special. They liked him well enough, but their parents wouldn't let him come over to play. They even made up strange excuses, such as the goldfish has an earache, or the television screen might blow up if Larry were to laugh too loud during a cartoon show. Larry's only real friend was the old man who lived next door, Carl Kaboom, who had worked in a firecracker factory all his life and was now so hard of hearing that Larry's voice was just fine for him. "Loud and clear, Larry," he'd say, "loud and clear, just how I like it, booming." Like all the other boys and girls in town, Larry Leatherlungs just loved Christmas. He had already written his letter to Santa Claus at the North Pole many weeks ago, asking for a megaphone to make his voice even louder. He knew his parents wouldn't understand why the loudest boy in town would want a megaphone, so he asked Santa to bring some industrial-strength earplugs for them. But when his mother took him to see the Santa at the big store downtown, Larry Leatherlungs suddenly changed his mind. The chubby old fellow in the red suit got the surprise of his life when Larry climbed up on his knee and declared, "I don't really want any presents. I don't really need any toys. You can give everything in your sack to the other girls and boys. I just want to be allowed to make a lot of noise." "Well, that's a very remarkable voice you've got, Larry," Santa said, his ears ringing as though he had spent the whole day listening to gigantic jingle bells. He gave a little cough, cleared his raspy throat, and popped a lozenge into his mouth. "I'll see what I can do," Santa added, and made a special note in his big book next to Larry's name. December 23rd was an awfully long day for Larry Leatherlungs. He tried his best to keep quiet, but every once in a while he would belt out one of his favorite Christmas songs, usually "Deck the Halls" or "Have a Holly Jolly Christmas," and another decoration on the tree would explode into smithereens, or a few more hundred pine needles would fall to the floor. "Sorry, Mom, I forgot," he said as his mother came through with the broom and dustpan and began to sweep up the mess. "That poor tree won't have a single decoration or needle left on it if you don't keep your voice down," she whispered softly. Larry Leatherlung sat glumly looking out the window, twiddling his thumbs to pass the time. The snow was still coming down hard. Suddenly, he noticed the postman hurrying down the street. He stopped at the sidewalk leading up to Larry's house, put his earmuffs on, and came up to the front door. Larry Leatherlungs tugged the door open before the postman could ring the bell. "Special delivery for you," the postman said. He handed Larry the letter and clapped his hands over his ears. "Thank you, postman," Larry said. The sound of his voice was so loud that it started an avalanche on the roof. A huge wall of snow came crashing down on the postman's head, knocking him flat and covering him from head to foot. His bundle of letters and Christmas cards went flying. "Frosty the postman was a jolly happy soul," Larry sang as the postman scrambled to his feet and began picking up the mail. Another decoration crashed to the floor, but Larry was too busy reading the letter to even notice. "Emergency at the North Pole. Santa has a very sore throat and can't talk at all. Larry Leatherlungs, please report at once for duty. Come and save Christmas. Express dog team is on its way to pick you up. Be ready." For a few seconds, Larry Leatherlungs wondered if the letter was a joke. But then he looked up and saw a team of huskies driven by two of Santa's helpers mushing their way up the street toward his house. As fast as he could, Larry pulled on his snowsuit and tugged on his warm winter boots. "Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad," he yelled. "I'm going to the North Pole. Santa Claus needs me." "Holy snow angel," Larry's father exclaimed, raising his voice above a whisper for the first time since he banged his thumb with a hammer last summer. "Heavens to Rudolph," his mother said, her voice rising to a mouse-like squeak as Larry disappeared from view on the back of the dog sled. "That kid of yours is something else," the postman said as he walked away. Many hours later, the dog team arrived at the North Pole. Hundreds of elves came out from their workshops to greet Larry. "Thank goodness you made it," said the chief toymaker. "We've got a serious problem. Santa came down with a sore throat, and now he has lost his voice completely. He's so hoarse that he can't speak above a whisper. The reindeer can't fly the sleigh without Santa to guide them. Santa wants you to ride along on the sleigh tomorrow to direct the reindeer," the toymaker explained. "Otherwise, we'll have to cancel Christmas. You are our only hope." "Cancel Christmas?" Larry Leatherlungs bellowed. "Never in a million years." The chief toymaker beamed, and all the elves suddenly started dancing around Larry and singing, "3 cheers for Larry. His voice is mighty loud. If Larry can save Christmas, his parents will be proud." "Well, you had better come along and meet the reindeer," the toymaker said after the elves had finished their dance. "And then Santa will want to show you the route. There's not a second to lose. Let's go." Before Larry climbed aboard the sleigh, the chief toymaker gave him a special present. Inside a big box was the megaphone he had asked for in his Christmas letter a few weeks earlier. "Just in case," the toymaker said, It might come in handy if your voice gets tired toward the end of the trip. And so Larry Leatherlungs, the boy whose loud voice drove people crazy 364 days of the year, was on board Santa's sleigh as it headed off to deliver presents to children here, there, and everywhere. Across the night sky they flew, racing from town to town while everyone was sleeping. On Comet, on Cupid, on Prancer and Vixen, go Dasher, go Dancer, go Donner and Blitzen, fly, Rudolph, fly, Larry Leatherlungs commanded, following Santa's whispered instructions to perfection. All through the long busy night, Larry's voice rang out clear as a bell, guiding the reindeer and their sleigh. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas, he called as the sleigh filled with toys flew from one rooftop to the next, and he never had to use the megaphone, not even once.